All right, people, welcome to the 401 podcast. I am your host, Joe Steele. This is my first podcast. I am giving this a shot, and I'm going to be reading poetry on this podcast and then kind of discussing my interpretation on it. The poetry I'll be reading is from friends of mine that I've met through the Instagram poetry community. I'm going to dive right in probably pretty quick here and get going on it. I don't want to spend too much time just, blabbing along. So, this first person I'm reading is on Instagram at INKTS Words. It can be pronounced Inks Words, NKT's Words, Inked Swords, however you want to pronounce it. I like the dynamic of the way she did that with her handle. Her name is Katie. She's a very good friend of mine, a very talented writer, and a great person. All around great person, one of the biggest hearts out of anybody I know. And I've had the pleasure of getting to know her through online communication. And someday we will meet because we aren't that far apart. Anyway, let me get right into it. She posted a piece of poetry a while back. This piece really stuck out to me. I related to it on a lot of levels. So again, I'm going to be talking about it, but I'm going to be talking about it from my interpretation and maybe how I think she views it. But so if I use the word she, it's just my interpretation. Again, I just want to clarify that. So anyway, I'm going to dive right in. No title to this piece. Do I make you uncomfortable? My eyes meet your stare. I know you keep watching, yet I never scare. You think I'm dangerous because you have no control. I don't wrap around your finger, won't beg for your hold. I don't need you, but I see you. That's the part that bothers you the most. I will never be compliant. I will never be silent. I will never look the other way while holding your hand. I will never follow you blindly. I will never be a yes ma'am. You can't put a lid on me. I'll pop. You cannot quietly tuck me under your rug. I'm still here. Still here. I did not wither. I am not your sacrificial lamb. You have no power over me because I don't give a damn. That is both the truth and a lie. I don't care about the masks you wear, but I know the one that you hide. The real you. That's why you're afraid. You thought you had this game mastered, but I was your checkmate. You want to know what I'd do to you because I could. I know. You know I know. I know you. No, I know. You know I know you know. I know. I know you. But you don't know me. You only think you do. Check again. You hold only the crumbs I've fed to you. I was careful, guarded, and swift. I knew who I was playing with. You never had your claws in me. I'll bet that makes you miffed. I see you. I know you see me too. But we see each other differently. You watch me from the outside. I see inside of you. Watching. Watching and waiting, never abating. Yes, I see you. I know you are there. The problem you have, though, is that I just don't fucking care. And that was Inked Words. Katie, she wrote a piece here she did not title. But what I did notice about this piece right off the bat, and this is something I do, there's always a meaning in anything I put into a piece. And this piece, she tags a location. And that location is, I see you. I really like that she does that. Whenever anybody does that, and it to me, I just wonder if what the meaning is there to them. So I just wanted to note that in this. But anyway, back to the piece itself. To me, this piece points to the way that we guard ourselves with the info we allow others to have of us, even people close to us, because some of us have been hurt enough times in our lives that we don't like to open up because we're afraid of being hurt. Myself included, I still struggle with that on a regular basis. It's a defense mechanism. It can be helpful, but it can also be a detriment to me. But we're also the type of people typically to be able to stand on our own and and manage our lives. Maybe not in the best way, mental health wise, long term, but in our way. And our way works for us. So I guess in a way it is the best way for us. Um, but anyway, yeah, she really struck me in that right away with the first slide. Is that was my first thought. It also touches on the aspect of people wanting to silence us. People like us is what I mean by that. It's like she mentions, I will never be silent. I will never look the other way. While holding your hand, I will never follow you blindly. It means I think for myself. We think for ourselves. People with our type of personality, and I see Katie as a similar personality to me in a lot of ways, and and we will speak our mind. Especially when backed into a corner, we're not going to back down from people. We might let people push and push and push because, we're being nice and we're trying not to cause um, confrontation with other people. But ultimately speaking, if you back us into a corner, you might want to watch out. And in the second slide of the piece, and I call it slides because on Instagram you post pictures and you can post up to 10, and you can only fit so many words on each one, so you slide them over. For anybody who isn't familiar with the Instagram poetry community. Anyway, she says, because I don't give a damn. And on the very next slide, the first line is, that is both the truth and a lie. And I get, my interpretation of that is that, like, she doesn't, let me clarify this. And then the next line is, I don't care about the masks you wear, but I know the one that you hide. So, the I don't give a damn. She doesn't give a damn about all the bullshit and how you or the person views themselves. This is how I would interpret that, and that it's both the truth and a lie in that way. Like, she doesn't care about one aspect, but she does care about the big picture, like who you are and how successful and healthy you are in your relationships with other people and with yourself. I think that's the most important thing to remember, is to have a healthy relationship with yourself. And she also acknowledges a few other things in here that I know, you know, I know. I know you, know I know. I know you know. It's basically, she's reiterating something throughout this piece, that I know you. I know the real you. I just want you to know that the real you is better than the one you're hiding behind a mask. And she goes on in the piece to say, you can't beat that mask into me. I see right through it. But you don't see me. Because she said, you only hold the crumbs I fed you. I was careful, garden, and swift. She only fed crumbs because she had to feel like she could trust that person. Again, this is my interpretation, but the trust within that person's, in the relationship with that person, she had to have that trust before she could really open up to that person. And that's a hard thing, trust. To have that trust to really be willing to open up to somebody and give all of yourself to, it's something that I know personally I've struggled with, and it comes from a lifetime of, for me, I cannot speak for Katie, but for me, abandonment issues, feeling like a burden to people. A lot of these things are things I'm learning about myself as recently as the past few weeks. Some of these things I've known for a long time. I like to analyze myself quite a bit. I think it's very healthy for me. And then when I read poetry like this that really jumps out at me, it really makes me think, and I appreciate it so much. And in the very last piece, part of the piece, she said, the problem that you have, though, is that I just don't fucking care. And it goes back to, she doesn't care about the masks. It's not that she doesn't care about the person. She wants this person, whoever it is, to have a healthy outlook on life, a healthy relationship with the people in his or her lives, and the people that this person affects. That's, again, my interpretation. And I keep reiterating that because I don't want anybody to think that I'm speaking on behalf of the person I'm reading. I'm just speaking because I love the poetry and really wanted to share this piece with everybody through a podcast. We do read these pieces live on Instagram, but they only last a day. And I think that sometimes these pieces can be helpful to be able to go back to and listen to and maybe understand, and maybe I'll get a message from somebody and want to discuss this more, maybe discuss this topic, which I'm always open to. But again, that was Ink's words and Katie's words. She can be found on Instagram at that handle. That's at INKTSWORDS. She also helps operate a platform page with me, which is called Rage Room Poetry, but more importantly, she operates her own platform page, which is Poetic Duets. And Poetic Duets is something that offers the opportunity for one poet to get with another poet, or maybe a few poets, and collaborate on a piece. They offer prompts, they do features, they do live reads on occasion. And I think it's a great way to interact with other people within the poetry community. It gives people the opportunity to see how each other works and bounce ideas and thoughts off of each other. So if you do go on Instagram, if you're not already there, do check those pages out, especially Poetic Duets, especially Ink's Words. It's a great account, and she is like one of the most superb human beings I've ever had the opportunity to chat with and call a friend. So thank you guys so much, and I appreciate it. With that, I'm going to end with this part of the podcast, and I'm going to share another piece here in just a few minutes. So if you'll bear with me, I'll get going. Again, this is my first podcast, and it's probably going to suck, but I'll get better, I hope. And if I don't, and you guys stick around, then I know you really like me. So anyway, let me get to the next piece. Let's see. The next piece is another great friend of mine. I've had the opportunity to meet so many people on here. So many people. And there are so many great people out there. It's really refreshing, because sometimes in the real world, so to speak, you watch the news and you see the stories, and all you hear is the negative, 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 and they're banging their drums. They're just beating it over your head with constant negativity. And within this poetry community, I've found so much positivity, even through the darkness and the dark times of people's poetry. There's always a light within it, an appreciation for it, and an openness to share with other people. So, and this person exemplifies that to me. Another person that and I know I'll probably sound repetitive, but I just appreciate these poets so much, and these people that I've had the opportunity to meet and chat with and get to know over time. And this one is Abby Forrest, author. And Abby Forrest, author, does so much in support for poetry, for community. She writes children's books, she writes poetry. She has just the biggest heart, and such a compassionate person. She invited me into a group of her friends after getting to know her, of friends she's found, and I've become friends with them. And we're called the Taco Crew, and that's because we all love tacos. And if anybody who doesn't love tacos, well, you're wrong. You're just wrong, because tacos are fucking amazing. And I know Abby will appreciate me saying that as much as I appreciate tacos. So anyway, so this piece, the next piece I'm reading, is from Abby Forrest, author. And it's called The Shadows. She does title many of her pieces, which I do like. It kind of it intrigues me. It really, I like to read it and then go back and think about the title and where it came from. Sometimes it's right in the poem, and other times it's kind of like a subset of the poem. So this is called The Shadows, and it is again by Abby Forrest, author, all one word. That's ABBEYFORRESTAUTHOR. And that's on Instagram. She can be found. All right, I'm going to go ahead and read. I heard the creaking of the door as I peered into the shadows of my mind. In the background, the haunting melodies of my past began to crescendo as my foot crossed the threshold. Dare I enter? These corridors have been locked up for so long, and for good reason. Why should I enter now? Who am I to think I'm strong enough to gaze into the face of shame and brokenness? The sonorous tones of the violas begin whispering. You can rise and defeat your demons. Step through, child, for nothing will change if you continue to bow to fear. Will you not trust my voice and lean into the promises I have made? Emboldened by the power placed within me, but it was not part of me yet. My toes slid into position beyond the frame. I was consumed by the darkness, led only by the voice that drew me deeper into the shadows. Come, now deeper still. You have not crossed the boundaries beyond the chasms that I have called to you. It was like an assault of determination that engulfed my spirit. I was the captive to secrets within the string breaths that coiled around my ankles. I could feel the fibers from the ropes of disgrace burning through my flesh as it tugged at my feet to continue my course. The voice at my back was reassuring me that soon the ropes would fall from my legs. I just needed to face the veiled beast that held the reins. My internal thoughts began to shout, "He is too strong, and fear has strangled us for so long. I don't remember how to breathe without it." Inhale the light, my lovely one. Stoke the flame that resides within you. I placed the strength inside of you for this very moment. You see, the enemy will remind you of the times that you have failed, that the times that you wore shame, the moments when you decreased your self-value and worth. But I know the plans I have for you. You are stronger than any demon, mightier than any shadow, and there is no fear that can hold you down. Arise and fight with the determination that you knew once before. The power you possess in light, darkness is afraid of you. Arise from who you think you are and take up the mantle of who you were crafted to be. You are a warrior wielding truth that will vanquish the shroud of lies and deceit. No longer are you to hide in the shadows of fear. Arise. Tears began to soak my cheeks as I felt the release of the shackles that had been holding me back from my purpose. The sound of steel snapping echoed in my nerves. Was it possible? Was that the sound of freedom's ring tearing through my night? My eyes, which were cast down, staring at my feet, darted upward to the face of the fiend that stood before me. You are mine, weak and feeble might. I own you. Looking him square in the face with fire and determination, my words began to spill from my lips. I didn't know where they were coming from, but they were pouring out faster than I could think. Your hold has been broken. Your power is gone. I am mightier and stronger than anything or anyone you've seen before. As the words flowed, I felt my courage come alive, and a new fire of determination was inspired within me. I looked at my foe, finally, and for the last time uttering words I have never heard before. I was empowered and emboldened by a new strength that was coursing through my veins. This is when I realized fear knew my name, but the tables had turned because up to this point, I was afraid of fear. The difference now, fear was and will remain afraid of me. The look on his face was that of sheer terror, and I realized that my surroundings were getting brighter. There was a soft glow which had been very subdued before now, and it had become an intense beacon of light. Even fear could not deny the beauty of the light. He recoiled, pulling back from me, withdrawing all the pressure and burden that he had been using to subdue me for so many years. The brilliance of the splendor that was grace and mercy residing in the marrow of my being split through the veil of obscurity, tearing down the strongholds that bound me to the chains of shame. Darkness was no more. My strength returned with a determination to shine embedded firmly within the bedrock of my dignity. The walls of this room within my mind began to deteriorate, and I would return here no more. This is my freedom from the fear that had bound me, and this is where my dignity commenced its reign. Oof. Such a phenomenal piece from Abby. Abby Forrest, author, that is all one word, and that was her piece called The Shadows. And, excuse me, I'm a little stuffed up today. her she is such an incredible person, a strong person who's fought battles that within herself and from the things around her and come out on top. Always a bright light. Absolutely somebody who finds the positive in everything. She's supported me in, as many people have. She's supported me and reached out to me in times when she felt I needed it, and she was right. And how she knew that, I don't know, but I really appreciate it. Onto this piece specifically, there, to me, I take this as she's looking inside oneself, and it's a big step to take. And even as she's doing it, she's still questioning it in the beginning of this piece. I don't know. I just love how she's willing to put herself on display like this and really show us all that you can overcome anything. And I like how the piece, it slowly builds and she's standing her ground and she's ready to fight against what's been holding her down for so long. She just really grabs the attention of the reader, and it doesn't let go in this piece. It's like she had a mantra within this piece encouraging her against her, for lack of a better term, beast, the beast that's holding her down, that is basically creating the fear for her. And I like how she finally realizes within this piece that she should be holding her head high, realizing what her self-worth is and not feeling like a prisoner to fear and to darkness, and that the things that once had a power over her no longer hold that power, that she holds the power, and she finally realizes she always did. She just didn't know how to use it. And the fear in this piece, which just really, I just love how she used fear within this piece. I like writing about my fears, but the way she wrote about hers is incredible. And she realized that the fear really had no hold on her. And the fear realized that no matter how much it tried to hold her down, that light wins out. I mean, it just does. And she's no longer chained. She's no longer bound by fear. She's not bound by this. She can write the chapter in her life that she envisions, and she's free to do that. And then, that chapter can change and there can be new chapters, but they're going to be her chapters. Now, they're not going to be other people's chapters or fear's chapters. They're going to be hers alone. And Abby really does that. And what I wrote down, I wrote some notes on these pieces just so I remember. And I wrote this 3 times in a row with an exclamation point. It says, "She is free, she is free, she is free. Unshackled, she is free." And that's how I felt throughout this piece and reading this piece and finishing it and really breaking it down. And I think the piece really speaks for itself. I really love this piece and wanted to do this and put this in the podcast, so I did. But the piece really speaks for itself. For me to break it down is really hard. I think someday we'll see a follow-up to this piece, whether it's intended or not, and it will really open up a lot of people's eyes and show where she's come from and where she began, which is so amazing. And the last note that I wrote down, and this is true, I wrote this because this is something I feel about Abby. She is the ray of light on the darkest days for so many, and now she is seeing her own light, and it's inspiring, and I couldn't be happier for her. And that's the truth. That is how I feel about it. She's just such an amazing, supportive, thoughtful person, and I hope you guys really like this. The format to this will not be strictly poetry. It will be a number of topics. and none of them off limits as long as it's not hateful, hurtful, disparaging, or disrespectful. And I would like to have guests on my podcast at some point in the near future. Maybe my next one, we'll see. This was just kind of a trial run. I do love poetry, so poetry and mental health are a big part of my life, and it's something that I will be following through with, and it'll probably come into play in pretty much all of my podcasts in the future. I think it really has an impact on life in every aspect, so I think it can be used maybe not as the direct part of the podcast, but an indirect way we can learn from why people think the way they do, or why we think the way we do ourselves, and really touch on that. So again, I really appreciate you guys listening if you've listened this long, and stay tuned because I will be doing more of these, and I'm trying to do them in a live fashion where I'm just speaking. I'm not really editing much. This one I probably won't edit at all. I'm just going to post it as is. I just want it to be natural and free, and I want you guys to enjoy that. And again, thank you so much. This was the 401 podcast. I am Joe Steele, and I appreciate you all. Thank you guys, and have a great day or night wherever you are.